Rightio. Welcome to the Peasent Podcast. Today we have our guests ready to go. We're a little mumbo jumboed on how we're going to roll this, but we're going to kick it off well. Today's guests, we have Mr. ADKCUE, we have Vaiden Force, we have the guys from DeadlandZ Factions, we have Slimbuckle, Dead Paradise and Nebs, and we have Mr. TBag. Welcome to the show, Mr.
Howdy,
Q.
howdy.
Hope you're having a good day.
Yeah, guys. Indeed.
Mr. Q is a former admin of the Roleplayers Oasis server. Currently, he's adminning on the DayZ Servers. Mr. Q, how long have you been playing DayZ for?
In hours, I think around close to 3,000 now. But since probably COVID first came out, I think I found the game.
And how often
So
do
quite a
you?
while.
A very long time. How often do you play a week?
It varies. Sometimes I'll play 8 to 10 hours plus. You know, roughly 4 hours a day if I'm on. Yeah, it just varies really.
Not a bad little total. Mr. Vaiden Force. Mr. Vaiden Force owns a Storm Rising server. We just featured it on the Greedy Peasant Spotlight. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. Good stuff.
And how long you been playing DayZ Xbox for?
I got a little over 5,000 hours in right now, over 2 accounts. Been playing pretty much since it dropped on console.
5,000 hours. Whew. And as a server owner, how long do you DayZ a week?
Playtime and server work time probably about equal, so I'd say probably 15 to 20, 25 hours.
Jeez, it's like a full-time job. Thank you very
It
much.
is.
Welcome to the show.
It really is.
All right.
Thank you, buddy.
These are the guys from DeadlandZ Factions. We have Slimbuckle, Dead Paradise, and Nebs. How are you guys?
Excellent.
And
Fantastic.
that's the way to go. I think our lady's asleep. How long?
Slim, you fell asleep.
Neb's asleep.
That's asleep. How long you been playing DayZ for? We'll start with
Who are you
Slimbuckle.
talking to?
We'll start with Slimbuckle.
I started over COVID lockdown.
Oh, COVID lockdown. And what about you, Nebs?
On Xbox between 2 accounts, I've got 3,000 hours, and I started playing the second day it was on Xbox in game preview. That's just on Xbox, and I've been interested in DayZ since it was in Arma 2 mod back in 2012.
2012. Gee, so you've been a long hauler. And
Yeah, but I didn't really start playing until it was out on console.
on console, that's the way to go. It's still been going for a long time, but very OG. And what about you, Dead Paradise?
So I have about 2,000 hours on console. I have a few hundred hours on PC, and I've been playing since a little before COVID happened.
Seems COVID brought a lot of people to DayZ. That's pretty interesting. And how much time do you guys put into your server on a weekly average?
Gameplay?
Got both gameplay and of course the admin duties.
Admin duties, a lot. That's more than a full-time job. And gameplay, I'm probably in server well over 20 hours.
Jeez. What about you, Nebs?
As of the past few weeks, I have been pretty much taking a step back. Just I picked up another job in real life. I probably put in an hour gameplay and server, but per week. But I've just secured Friday and Saturday off from both my jobs, and I'm going to dedicate those to helping out DayZ and DeadlandZ.
Yes, well, DeadlandZ was originally, you came to me on DeadlandZ back in the day, so, I mean, from its little startup to its build up now, it's really a lot of time's been put into it. And Dead Paradise,
Yeah, for sure, but nowadays not a lot.
not a lot. It's real life for you. And Dead Paradise, what about you? How long do you put into the server every week?
The hours in game just kind of varies because I also play with my wife here and there, so it kind of just depends. When it comes to admin stuff, it's sun up, sundown, pretty much. As soon as I wake up, I'm checking stuff. Yeah, pretty much. I'm even doing it at my real life job. I'm checking stuff. So
There you go. That's the dedication to it. Oh, welcome, guys, to the podcast. And Mr. TBag, welcome to the podcast. How you
Yeah,
going?
we did, mate.
Mr. TBag's
Yeah,
got
not
his
bad, but 2 servers on.
he's got his fingers in all the pies of DayZ. He's a reputable coder. He's got 7 servers that I know of. One being on PC, a couple on PlayStation, and a couple on Xbox. How long have you been playing DayZ for?
Well, pretty much since it was dropped off of Armour as a stable game itself, I suppose. You could say I've probably got about 12,000 across PC and console, probably about 12,000 hours.
Well, definitely put the time in. And this is probably going to be the scariest question for you. How often do you play DayZ a week?
Actually, gameplay, probably only a couple of hours a week. Modding, like 12, 15 hours a week.
12, 15 hours a week, so it dedicates most of your time to that modding section.
Yeah, that's when I'm not working. I work full time as well, so every hour in between that is pretty much filled with coding servers, doing the bots, and then I get to squeeze in a little bit of game time for myself here and there.
That's crazy. Well, welcome to the show. Well, everybody, that's our
Nice
guest. So we're going to open the floor straight off the bat to talking about the game and talking about the new release of the experimental 1.20. I've had a go of 1.20. I really enjoy the mechanics of how the player runs and the new stamina come out, but this was for the first update. I haven't played the second update. What are your guys' thoughts on 1.20? We'll start with you, TBag, being a coder and a modder. You've probably already torn it off and had a look at it. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I do like some of the new little stat things in that they've brought in for players and that, because it's going to take away a lot of the disgruntled players that blame servers and admin and that, and mainly the coders for lag on server side, because now it's going to have a little stat for server connection. It's going to show you whether it's actually internet connection or server side. So
yeah, well, the
that's
server
gonna help
connection
owners
was
and coders a lot.
that was a pretty good option actually. Once I figured out how it was, it actually made things a lot easier to work out.
And
well,
it's a nice change from put a focused update in and more patch fixing as well, rather than just pushing out content. Because although content's good, correcting bugs and the errors and that are already there is, I just said, more of a priority anyway for people to enjoy the game.
yeah, 100%. And what about you guys at the DeadlandZ? Have you had a look at 1.20? Is there anything there that will
I
affect
have not had
your
the chance.
particular
besides
style of server?
I haven't yet personally, but I do just reading up on all the stuff that's supposed to be in it. I think it's definitely something that's going to help all Xbox communities, especially the people that don't really like third person, but it can nerf it down, so you don't have to worry about the people that are too worried about when it comes to like raiding and third peeking and all that.
It's going to be really nice.
Yeah, the third person perspective I think is going to be one of the game changers. I was playing with it with experimental, and it seems like after a little manipulation you can get the angles, but it's not going to be as easy as pull up at the wall and be able to look around corners and stuff like that on an instant. What about you, Vaiden? Anything that interests you with your server and the new update?
Well, with the 1.2, I've only played it a little bit actually today. I wanted to get on a little bit because I knew this was going to be one of the topics that we were going to talk about. So I don't have an extensive play on it, but the inertia I can tell a little bit, but it wasn't like overwhelming, which I thought it made it sound like some people were saying. To me, it didn't feel too bad. I do think there's some things that we're working out with the third person, the view on that, because I still noticed going through some of the buildings where the zoom was going in and out, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. But I do, I normally play in first person, even though we did have a third person server. Uh, Third person is great though. When you're driving in cars looking for heli crashes and stuff like that. But no, I think 1.2 is good. I'd rather have the patches and the fixes and the lay the groundwork for other stuff rather than just throw 3 more guns that nobody cares about or nobody wants into the update. And more useless things that I got to take out of the server anyway.
Yeah,
So
100%.
I'm all for just for a nice little patch or update that just helps lay the groundwork for future updates, bigger updates.
And I agree on the actual movement on it. I found the movement 100 times better than it is currently, especially mixed in with the
Right.
stamina. That was probably one of the biggest things. I found the stamina lasted quite a lot longer when you're light.
Yeah, it does take a little getting used to, but I think also from what I've seen, or I believe the server owners also have the ability to turn the new movements off and on as well.
Yeah, that's
Server.
right. That's right.
Oh, that'll be
Yeah,
that's a good
good
touch.
stuff.
That's a good touch. And have you had a crack on 1.20 yet, Q? I lost his mic.
He's had a long day. Just let him
Ah,
say it.
shit. Sorry, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I played it quite a bit the other day, probably, I don't know, a good 3-4 hours straight. The inertia I found was alright, unless everything's absolutely wet and saturated, and it's fucking annoying. Like, everything gets wet, bullets, everything, and to dry it out, you have to drop everything around the campfire. Like, absolutely everything. You can't just drop your bag and dry things now. You have to empty every single
you gotta
thing out
pour
of
your
your
whole
bag.
contents
it's
out
cool.
the bag.
Yeah. The other cool thing that I found about it, when you get cut or hit by a zombie, it makes a little sloop noise now. You can actually hear yourself getting cut. It's kind of cool.
I really enjoyed the sound effects. I think the game's been enhanced by, even when I was walking through the bush, you can hear the trees creaking a lot better. You can hear the nature sounds kick right in. The cut sound was good. But I think that drying aspect's going to be the use for having dry bags and protective cases and things like that now being incorporated into your backpack.
I
Yeah,
love
I
going
think
across
it's
like
gonna have to
mentioned
be.
that. Yeah.
little
So
certainly
ambient
gotta
noises
be.
and nature sounds.
yeah, I
It's
think
going to be a lot of fun sitting around a campfire, people drying their shit. It's
Everyone-
good loot for everybody.
it's taken it. But it's also going to roll down to watching DayZ merge back into a hardcore or a survival game rather than steering into that PvP aspect of it.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've been missing about it lately, is everyone kind of just wants to shoot the first thing that walks up to them, you know?
Yeah, well, that's going to be definitely what it's all going to be about. All right, so what's my screen? The big question, especially with Xbox being, I suppose, the second choice, or console DayZ being the second choice, what keeps you playing the game and staying with console? I'll let the queue open the floor on this one.
I think most of it's the community. I mean, I could have got a PC earlier in the year when I upgraded to next gen, but that's the community in DayZ console. There's nothing like it. That's pretty much the main reason why I stick
definitely.
around.
Everyone knows it's not on par with PC, or the servers aren't as customizable, but everyone doesn't care, and they'll relish all the little things that people do to make sure the server is running well, or all the Discord loopholes that we have to go through, like having external kill feeds and stuff in place of mods. Everyone's gotten pretty used to it, and I think that it's a big part of why people continue to play on console, because there's a certain, like, it's like playing old Call of Duty games. Like, they weren't made very well, and you can get out of the map and glitch around, but that's the charm of it. It's the same thing with the console Xbox. It's kind of jerry-rigged together.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. That it's, I think it's bugs is its flavour. Sometimes
They're not bugs, they're features, all right?
features, things that we don't have. And what about DeadlandZ? What keeps you guys? I know your server. I think it just increased to 100 slot. Did you eventually? I know
About
it's at it's at 70 slot. I saw the little post about it going 100 slot. What takes it to
Yeah.
a server to take it to 100 slots and keep you guys obviously, paying the money that makes the server available for all these people?
As far as
Honestly,
runtime,
you
you got it.
runtime. It's all loyalty. I mean, we don't have to put as much money into the server just because we have such a diehard loyal community that with donations it just helps out. Yeah, I mean, it's the staff and the community that's making it able to go to 100 slots because we always have a queue of 70 when we're in 70. So yeah, I mean, it's just the loyalty of the community that we've just built up over time.
And that just keeps you driving and keeps you focused on, continuing it on Xbox.
That, and with the 100 slots, I mean, there's not really a lot of 100 slots out there, so we just kind of want to be the groundbreaking server to do that, and kind of show everybody else out there in DayZ that, a lot of people kind of knock on 100 slots, like maybe it's a leg, yada yada. We kind of want to be that next server to try to be groundbreaking and show, like, yeah, we can do 100 slots in the DayZ community, and we want to be kind of the forefathers doing that.
Yeah, nice. And what about you, TBag? You put quite a lot of hours in building stuff and making stuff, and I know there's a lot of coding and mods that you put out, especially in my Discord, that you release to the public. What keeps you the drive to code and make these things for the community?
Well, that is it. 90% of it is the community. I do enjoy helping anyone that's willing to learn. I do turn off a bit to people that just want you to do it for them, because I'd rather them take something away from it as well, rather than have to go to someone. I mean, DayZ's had a lot of bugs in it since it first released. I think that is a lot of the joy of the bloody game as well, because the community comes together and we all put in a workaround, or someone puts out a different idea and then someone throws something else, and then next thing you know, we've worked a way around it. So yeah, it's definitely the community. You can do the mods and that, like people say, on console, but on PC, but the community side of it there to bounce backwards and forwards from, it's just not there on PC, I think.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. I think it is the struggle and the working through the bugs and the people coming together to try and work out a solution is the draw with Xbox and console communities coming together, and a lot of the people being, quite friendly and quite willing to work out what's going on. We're going to go into a little game understanding. What is the best gun when it comes to overall versatility in the end game of DayZ? We'll start with
LAR.
okay, now kick it off. Yeah, LAR. What do you
Sorry,
say,
my
LAR?
fault. I didn't mean to.
No, jump in. No, 100%. I'd rather you jump in than me having to single someone out.
I don't know. Probably the LAR. Either the LAR or the Tundra. Because LAR, you can put one bullet into someone from 10 feet away, or 500. You could put a scope on it now. Can you put it 6 times on LAR, or just the 4 times?
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
a
You can?
It's like,
Yeah. You have a sniper at that point. I mean, you can do anything with it. Versatility-wise, it's out of 10.
I don't know. For me,
Yeah,
it's got to
I'll-
be the Dragonov.
The Dragonov, the
No
SVD.
way, really?
Yeah, I love SVD, man. And it's like an SKS hopped up on steroids. Awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Got
100%.
The AUG.
And the org, see, this is where my favourite comes through. I'm an end game. I like the org, the versatility of the
Yeah.
mags and the ability to be able to interchange whatever that style of mags is probably the go-to for me, especially in the survival situation where you're scavenging around.
Me and AUG and a Tundra is a good one too.
Org and the Tundra, so your combination is always the Tundra. See, I'm a Mosin man all the way through.
I like the most.
But it does limit me on long range. That's probably the only thing the Mosin's missing is the ability, like the Tundra has, to zoom in. And sometimes it's a disadvantage. Sometimes I'll go to a Blaze rather than a Tundra.
I'm M4 man. I like a little bit more accuracy on me spray and spray.
You like to dump the 60 mags in 6 seconds.
Yeah, that's it.
Is the M4 being balanced out since it's had that upgrade of the fire rate? Or do you think it's now overpowered?
I don't think it's
I'd say-
overpowered.
I wouldn't say it's OP. I just said it's probably a bit more balanced than it ever had been. To be fair,
Bit more balance of it.
I mean, it don't swing around in the air anymore when you're holding it full auto, but it does shoot still straight up in the line. I think what's his name? Was it Wobo? I think it is. He done a video on all of the fire rates and that when they done the last update on them.
When they did the upgrade. I mean, he's always got a fistful of videos coming about how the game works and the trajectories of the bullets and what's rolling along. But no, it's very interesting, the spread of different varieties of guns and the go-tos that people actually pick up and take. When you guys are playing the game and you're starting fresh, even if it's on official or a new server, what's your go-to item?
Sledgehammer.
Yeah. I'd say a melee weapon or a knife. Knife is pretty important for me, whether I'm making one or finding a sharp knife, kitchen knife, steak knife, get open food.
Getting
do a
that
lot of things, get
burlap
some bark.
backpack.
Go with food.
Yeah, so first thing is either a weapon, some, what do you call it, or food. Very interesting. And obviously the last question, freshies. Do you leave
Kill
them
'em.
or do you kill them?
Kill 'em.
No, they
Kill
kill
'em.
killer, man. The most dangerous thing in DayZ is a
Kill 'em.
freshie.
They got nothing
Yeah,
to
you
lose.
got
More
bro.
dangerous
Yeah.
on a freshie with nothing,
Nothing
to lose.
Nothing
House
to lose.
money.
Go at it.
Yeah, there is a stigma
That's it.
about
House money.
killing freshies and how it's frowned upon, and
I don't care.
yeah, I
I mean,
100%.
if you're down in a spawn area and you're killing freshies, that's a different story, you know. If you're fully geared in
Yeah,
the spawn
geared,
area and
bruh.
killing freshies, that is a pretty dirtbag
That's
move.
scummy, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're sitting
Yeah,
there.
that-
But if you're sitting in the woods and a freshie runs up on you, the amount of times as a freshie I've stun locked a fully geared guy and knocked him out and taken his gun, I ain't trusting a freshie. I'm killing him. I don't care.
I
Yeah,
have
Put a
Yeah.
gun in your pocket and get as close as you can and shoot them.
Yeah. I have personally been killed by more freshies than I have killed.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
yeah.
I prefer to
Yeah.
start streams when I'm on servers like that as a freshie because I've got nothing to lose. Walking in there and finding a gear player and hunting them down with a baseball bat, I think brings a lot more pleasure than having a 2-second gun fight in the middle of Northwestern Airfield.
Yeah, there's nothing
Yeah.
better than beating up a full gear player and taking his shit to your fist.
Hey, that satisfaction, eh?
One of those achievements
It's
on
even
DayZ.
satisfaction when you almost get them. You know, you got them down. You know you got them, and then you get popped in the end. But man, like even when you almost get them, it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah, but the next freshie, you set it up for him. You ruined that for his
Yeah, there
day.
you go.
Yeah.
You've left him beaten and ruined and ready for somebody else. And how often do you rush back if you're close by to try and get into him again?
What's worse than a freshie is a freshie that sees a limping geared guy. He knows, bruh. He knows he's one hit away from death.
And one hit away from an
Those are
upgrade.
hyenas. Yeah, that's it.
That's I'm glad we're all in agreement with that. All right, so we'll
I
jump.
think that's one of the funnest things. Sorry.
Yeah,
one
go,
of the funnest
go,
things
go.
about coming up to white times is when you get a shit ton of gear guys running down the beach on official. It's just freshies getting geared left, right, and centre. You find an M4s and AKMs scattered all over the coast. It's fucking glorious.
Yeah, well, I delve into a wipe day, especially if there's a roll on official or even the other way around when it's a wipe day on a server and everyone's fresh. Even that's not just beating up a gear guy. I'm flogging everyone because I'm taking their bandages, I'm taking their apples. You know what I mean? Because that's going to gain me to get out of the area that everybody's smashing everybody in. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of wipe days and previous and after. All right, we're going to move on to community servers. This is where we get a little bit more in depth in the community server aspect. So when you're building or looking for a server, what's the number one thing you strive for? So to give you an example, when I build my servers or when I look for a server to play on, I go for the hardcore genre. I need to find a server that's hard. That's my go-to. I'll lead TBag off of this one. When you left with an open server and for you to just do whatever you like with, what gets created in that server? What style of
For
server?
me, it's not 9 times out of 10 it's boosted PvP or a deathmatch. If it's for me personally, just to kick back and have a laugh and create something crazy. And community-wise, if I'm looking for a server to base down on and play, it's always hardcore or an official-based server. Out of the communities.
Yeah, nice.
Creative-wise, I always go for deathmatch, PvP.
So you use
It's
your creativeness to make something that's off the charts when it comes to PvP.
Yeah, as well with the PvP, I can get away with testing a few bits and throwing a bit more crazier stuff out there without any unexpected complaints about it.
Yeah.
So just to kill each other.
Yeah, I can understand that. I know that yourself as a coder is very detailed on blending the surroundings of the new mods into the actual into each other rather than.
Yeah, realism's one thing I'm quite funny with.
So that's quite funny that you use the death matches to express your creativity, flair, stepping outside the box.
Yeah, whether the details as appreciated on the death match is debatable. But
Yeah. And when it comes to DeadlandZ Factions, is the drive or the motivation behind the server always been faction based?
Yeah. Always been faction based. And then another thing that really try to keep whenever we're adjusting loot or adding new items is something that I think a lot of people miss or don't experience, especially nowadays, is like a lot of servers are like you spawn in, you find an LAR, and you're good. But a lot of servers are missing that early game experience where it's easy to get into, but you're not gonna like you can find food, you won't starve, but you're not gonna find a full kit in 10 minutes. Like you got to look around for that. You got to go to the special military zones. You can't just do it in civilian houses. I know we want fights happening with axes and shotguns before people are doing it with snipers and M4s, and that's what we kind of cater to. We keep the tiers and the loot zones kind of the same as the vanilla game, but we also boost it and kind of add our own flair to it. And a lot of people seem to like that because it's hard to find that nowadays, especially with factions.
Yeah, it's the venture to rags to riches, pretty much. That's
Makes
a
it
lot of people
satisfying.
miss.
Yeah, that's definitely the what you need in a server to be able to kick it off. You need a little variety. You've got to have some sort of start to finish and an end game. That's probably one of the hardest things to create in a community server. What about you, Vaiden, with ASR? Is your direction, your flavour hardcore because of your flavour, or is that the server you just wanted to build?
I think it kind of naturally fell into that slot as far as hardcore goes because I'm kind of with these other guys that just spoke here. I'm not all about servers where you log into, and you're tripping over a certain loot item and LARs are falling from the sky hitting you in the head every 10 feet. Because one of the things that I like to, when I'm building servers, and there's a couple things. One of the things is, what's valuable. Yeah, LARs are valuable, but the most valuable thing on a server, in my opinion, is time, like your real life personal time. I could be out doing this, I could be out going there, I could be on another server going here. I'm spending valuable time looking for an LAR, trying to get an LAR, which on my server, I personally haven't even found in 3 months. So when I get one, I'm going to protect it. I'm going to, be careful when I'm carrying it and things like that. And the other thing with LAR, or not LAR, but with ASR, my server is, when we do our mods and do our building and things like that, it's got to be natural. We're all about the natural look and the natural feeling and immersion. Some of these other servers, with these real giant Pepsi cans and all these different things, are really cool to look at, and they do take a lot of time to do and line up, and it looks really appealing. But for us, we like that natural feeling. So you're not going to have like a ATC tower in the middle of a castle or a row of houses in the middle of an airfield and things like that. So we want players that go through the server to look around and be like, is that vanilla? Is that supposed to be here? Hey, I can't find this on I Survive. That's an ode to us when we hear things like that. So it's all about the natural feeling when we're building and when we're coding. There's so many things that we code and there's so many things that we build that we run through our test server and it doesn't feel legit, and we just take it out. So whenever it's put in and finally inserted into the server, it's a pretty natural looking, feeling thing when you come across. And the hardcore part of it is, not being able to find things as easy, and as time goes on and our server uses the seasons, meaning that, season 2, season 3 gets harder and harder, tin food is harder to come by, things are just evolving and getting harder and harder to come by, nature's taking over and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what we look for in a server, that's what we look for to build.
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were done, man. My fault. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay, alright, my fault. For DeadlandZ, definitely the same thing when it comes to custom buildings and getting custom locations in, even if it's something small. Yeah, some people will place a building and they'll put maybe 2 or 3 things decorated around it to make it look maybe a little more natural. But if I have something floating and it shouldn't, and it needs a support beam, I'll figure out how to make it look like it was built back in the 80s, because I think that's when this game is set. I'll figure out a way to make it look natural, even if it takes me 20 assets to do it. And I'll meticulously sit there and place a pole for like 10 years for it to look natural. And I won't add a bunch of assets together that don't belong. I think in total, DeadlandZ has, I think we only have 1 file in our custom directory on Cherno.
Mr. Q, as I know you're not as heavy into the admin at the moment. When flowing into a server, what do you look for in general when it comes to looking for a server and picking up and starting and putting a dedicated time into it?
That has been one thing that I've been finding quite difficult lately, since I've left role players and then playing hardcore quite a lot lately, is trying to find a well balanced server for me and my crew at the moment. Um, Definitely we're always looking for hardcore, but them is trying to find the mix of hardcore and somewhere decent where you can PvP and raid. Definitely you don't want to find, as boys were saying, guns in every second house. Too many servers out there just have way too much loot in them. Like, a lot of people seem to forget that it's a survival game at the heart of the game. So yeah,
Hey.
more trying to find survival factor games that have decent pop. I mean, there's so many really, really good servers out there at the moment, but a lot of them just don't get enough love. They're always seeing it empty or low pop, unless it's 1 or 2 days a week, where people feel that they can just go in and start raiding things. It's it's an issue, but that's not bad. I mean, lately we've been dragged into Zagoria, which is Zagoria's crazy, man. That server's sort of just taking my heart at the moment.
And what's the appeal with Zagoria? Is it the pop or is it the mods or?
I think it's a big mix of the two. It's the pop's always really great, and the the mods that Levens has put into the map are just outstanding.
So it's
More than anything, yeah.
graphically appealing.
Yeah. And the same thing, you can't find loot in every second house. If you want decent loot, you've got to grind for it.
Yeah.
Nothing there's easy to find.
So once again, everyone has in common that with appealing mods and a challenge on the server, you not only gain a server that's going to be populated, but one that's going to be continuously looked at as being something that's people can go and hit at. It's very interesting. And don't forget, people in the chat, we're going to have a big question time at the end of the show. So if you want to ask these guys some questions, we'll segregate some time for you guys to sit down and pump the questions away. They're happy to sit and answer any questions, of course. Let's make them onto content. Now, the big question that I've had over the podcast is alts. Alternate accounts. We know on Xbox we can get up to 32 alternate accounts on one Xbox itself. I'll start with Vaiden. In a hardcore situation, what's what's your thoughts on alts, and secondly, how do you handle them?
One alt. That's our rule. One alt. We've had it before in the very beginning, a few years ago, where we've had, there was no limit on it. And what we were finding was, people would have 15, 20 alts, and they'd have them stationed around the map and, labeled it on their own little I survive. And anything that's happening on anywhere on the map, it's basically like you're teleporting, right? To me, that's a little too much. We do believe in an alt, one alt, because some people, they might want to play more of the survival mode, and the other character, they might want to play more of the PvE mode, building or things like that. But I think if you have too many alts, you could station alts inside bunkers, you could station alts inside of the houses and things like that. I think what we changed it in the very beginning, because if some of you might remember, basically you used to be able to hop around and have an alt in a building and then hop on another server and be in the same building on a different server, and I guess I was ghost raiding, that was called, but yeah, alts, I'm okay with them as long as there's one per server. I think any more than that, it can be a little much sometimes. I've been on servers where people have had 15, 20 alts, and we had a guy on our server too that was talking up saying he has 28 alts. First of all, I don't even know how you can manage that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how they can manage so or remember where each and every
Yeah,
one
that's
is.
just- Well, they market them on the I Survive. He showed me how he did it, and it just to me, I'm like, man, that you have 20 adults on a map like Livonia. Just you got all corners and everything in between all covered at all times. I think it's a little bit of an unfair and advantage.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of mini ults. On alt.
What about you guys at DeadlandZ? Do you guys allow alts, and how do you guys look at alts?
Let Slim speak
Go
on
ahead,
that
Slim.
one.
Yeah, go ahead, Slim.
Good old me. We allow one ult per player, being that we are faction based, and 12 max of 12 people per faction. If you're going to go raid a base in the weekend, potentially have 24 characters to get through to be able to raid that base, which is quite a few. We ban a lot of ults. Mainly we look at gamer score, friends, like that. Mainly ban unregistered ults because our server does get full. It sucks for those waiting in a queue. Come back in for people raiding when there's ults that aren't registered, taking it. And we manage our one ult by having our gamer tags as our Discord server names. So we have our main /alt and ult per player.
Oh, nice. So each player actually has to put in their nickname, both their GTs, to be able to establish an alt on server, and anything else is just deleted off the server. Yeah, that's a good idea. Makes it easy for you guys too. That way you can identify who's talking between in game and on the Discord. And what about you, TBag? Are you a fan of alts, and how do you deal with them? Oh,
Well said.
that's it. What about?
Yeah.
Don't forget about your
The
mind.
silence speaks 1,000 words.
I think he's on his ult. Hold on.
Yeah, he's on his ult. It's coming on his ult.
Yo, he's on the wrong account, bro.
All right, Mr. Q.
Well, coming from role player background, I don't like ults. I think it takes a lot of the reality fact of the game away from it, because really you're playing as one life,
Yeah, so you take the aspect of the one life, put everything into it, and in a role player situation,
Yeah, that's right.
you should only have the one life and risk it all.
Yeah, I mean that's the way I play DayZ anyway. Like I don't have any ults. When I first started, I maybe had 2, and then it just, to me, it just didn't feel right. It takes a lot of the fear of losing stuff and the fear of okay, someone's coming in to raid my base. I've got one chance to defend it. Not okay, I've got killed. Sweet, let's log into my ult and I've got another 2 sitting there waiting to defend. Like to me, that's unrealistic. You get killed in your base, you're dead. Oh well, your shit's gone.
Yeah,
And
so
the same thing
Amen.
if you're raiding. Yeah, it's the same thing if you're raiding. You should only go in with your crew. So say you got a crew of 5 raiding into raid. That's 5 lives you've got to raid. And if you can't achieve that just with your 5 guys, well, tough biscuits. You shouldn't be able to run in an extra player.
yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah, it puts more value on your equipment and your strategy.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
agree.
No, but that's 100% agree with. It does with limiting only one player. There's times when I had my faction on official before community was around. We had 5. Like I have 5 ults of that one particular faction name under, and we used to use it because you'd be storing gear into it, and back in those days we'd be duping god tents and all sorts of things. So you'd have accounts for duping and all the things we used to do back in official, and being a 36-man faction spread out over 3 servers and multiple time zones, to get together and roll together, it was just drop gear and go. But when we were base building, versus in the Baptists, we had you'd never be able to raid because the amount of alts that we would just pull out between, 30 odd people over the 24-hour time, you just couldn't. And you would just take characters and rush them in 100 mile an hour. It didn't matter what's this guy got? He's got a shotgun. Sweet, I'll go in there. Boom.
Yeah.
I cost 1 life for 1 life, but I know I've taken out a geared player.
Yeah.
I think we've
Right. Again, it takes the value out of the game. To me, it just devaluizes time and strategy and resources.
It does. I
which-
think too many people have forgotten that it's a survival game. Too many people treat DayZ these days as a PvP game, like they're going to go play COD. It ruins it for a lot of people. It really does.
Do you think
And
that
if I want to play that way, honestly, that's the way we get the deathmatch servers. We can jump on.
That's
You know.
yeah.
It'll quench your thirst a little bit, for that type of play. But I don't know. A lot of alts, like you said, it just devaluizes people's time and how they do it and how they play the game. And then it gets to be like a chest puffing thing, right? Who has the most alts may win. You take out one geared guy. Okay, maybe he only has 3 alts and you have 7. What are you gonna
Yeah.
do?
and when you're building a server or when you're trying to maintain your server, is that one of the biggest focuses of trying to keep the limit of alts down?
That is a focus. I mean, on our server, we do have on ASR, we do have the one alt thing, and we do get people's alts once they join the server in the Discord, and we do realize that, once they start playing and that we could tell that they're using different alts and things like that, we will make a note of it. But it to be honest with you, it's really not that huge of an issue. At least it hasn't been on our servers all that much. We've definitely had some instances before. We even had a guy in our faction that we had to say no. But there's definitely instances of it where it's been a problem, but not as much as maybe we're laying on that it is or has been for us anyway.
You see, with Roleplayers Oasis, that was one of our biggest things that we spent a lot of time on with our mods and our admins, was just trying to filter out bots. Because everybody knows, every roleplayer, you get no alts, and just the amount of time the admin spent on trying to fucking get rid of people's and just trying to keep them out. It actually causes so much of a headache.
So do you think a lot of admin time is wasted on the epidemic of alts? You're good, Mr. TBag?
Yeah, mate.
Depending on the
Yeah,
server,
cool.
dependent on the server, it can be. Hell yeah.
And does that work out with staff-wise as well? Is having more staff a direct corrugation between having to have these jobs of having to filter out alts and having a patrol Discord and try and marry up who's in Discord and who's in the server and the correct stuff like that? Because
and who's on the server?
I've found that the most difficult of being able to track down ghost accounts and stuff like that.
It is. It's just one of those things that you wish you didn't have to deal with, because there seems to be so many other more important things that you want to work on and focus on and make the server better rather than having to figure things out and anything that wastes your time on stuff like that. Just it's frustrating. But to answer your question, is having more staff. It's always great to have more staff that you can trust and that can do work for you, and you can delegate out. It definitely makes it a lot easier, because what a lot of people know, and I know we'll talk about a little bit more moving forward, but is just the amount of time that an admin server owner puts into code or puts into each and every server. I think a lot of that's overlooked a lot, and that definitely does equate to some time, real lifetime.
Yeah, 100%. That's I think one of the biggest things that gets missed is how much time an owner puts into their server. On the question, Mr. T-Bag, how do you deal with alts, and what's your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I'm not a lover of them, to be fair myself. I do have alt accounts just for ease of modding and that, to go and checking things out and that. Don't tend to play with an alt account myself, because I think, like you were saying, it takes that element of gear fear away from it. You sort of, I think you find as an owner, like after a few years, you sort of step back from using any sort of aids or spawning anything in and that, because you do take some of the fun away from the game for yourself when you're constantly modding and coding and stuff like that. So using an alt, to me, it does defeat the object of going and getting the loot if you know you've got another 5-6 characters that's got the same stuff all holding it on them. So I personally don't like them, but managing them's difficult. I mean, through the bots, there is a way I'm looking at in the moment where you can capture a player ID and then monitor them by that, but that would require players to having their in-game names linked on their Discord, like having Xbox linked to their Discord account, so that way I can capture their main account and any other account that they're using an alt connected to it.
Yeah, nice. So there is quite a few strategies that you guys use to at least keep an eye on,
Yeah, I think
what's going on in the alt situation, and asking players to be honest and say, hey, make sure you nominate your alts.
what DeadlandZ do is a pretty good way to do it, having them set their Discord name to the same as their in-game name. That's a good way to manage it, and then banning anything else, because a lot of PC servers manage it that way as well.
Yeah,
Stays them
we do
having
that
to
on
keep checking.
ASR as well.
Sorry, with the name thing, sometimes people will switch accounts or have an alt that gets changed, or they'll put it in wrong and we don't see it, and then we'll ban it, and then they'll make it say it 5 minutes later, hey, why was my alt banned? It was in my name. I had it like spelled one letter wrong and we couldn't look it up. And then sometimes people will be confused on what to do, and we'll have to do it for them, and then we'll ask, sometimes new players will be like, hey, give us all of your alts, and they'll give us like 20, and we're like, okay, pick one, and then we'll ban the rest. And then he's like, why'd you ban the rest? Well, you only get one. So it just kind of eliminates that if we ask preemptively. And sometimes it pays off. Sometimes, I mean, if they have 20 alts, they can make it 21st, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, you can have, unless you're pulling all 32 of them, they've still got plenty of room to expand on. But that's definitely seems to be a good strategy when it comes to dealing with the alt situation. I know it could be very frustrating
For sure.
trying to filter
And
through
sometimes,
and doubting and
I cannot fathom 32 alts. Just, I just don't know how that's possible.
yeah, that's
I can't
stupid.
fathom that.
I struggle with
Sometimes
the
we'll
ones that I have,
people
and that's
get
3.
accused. We'll have
Yeah,
people
I've
get
had
accused of
people
having
come in
multiple
and
accounts.
list 20 odds before.
So, what's your extreme cases of alts? I know you probably had some issues on your servers where people have got disgruntled and come back. Do you have any fond memories
Slim's
of
got some good answers for that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with any funny stories when it comes to people with alts.
Yeah, we banned a faction for just breaking a few rules, essentially. Got caught, and I mean the amount of alts, and I give them credit for their determination on making so many alts and trying to grease the server. I mean, it was annoying, but it was funny to see them waste so much of their real life to really achieve bugger all in game. I mean, we had great admin on at the time that would keep watch and, you know, helping the base owners rebuild and stuff like that. And to be honest, the community were just so supportive, knowing that particular team were trying to do something that they couldn't really achieve. But determination in making that many alts that we banned, wow, it was crazy, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely grieving when alts become an issue.
Yeah, that's funny how I can't understand the purpose of coming back and trying to grief a server and spending all that time getting on the Discord and trying to pull the loop and adding your new accounts in to then try and grief in where admins are, especially in the heightened moment after an incident. Yeah. I mean, all admins are on high alert. You're basically combing through your population, and some servers they even stop recruiting. So it's definitely funny how much time people waste trying to get back at a server, I suppose. Alright, so we're going to move on to bots and coding. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, you're more than welcome to at the end to save your questions and come and ask the guys some questions. But we'll leave it to the end of the show. That way we can get through all our little itinerary of what the people want, and then of course we can finish it off with the questions. So when it comes to bots and coding, and I'll put this to the person who spends most of his time doing so, what made you start coding TBag? What got you into it?
Well, it's other servers that I used to play. One of the servers I used to play, I got the ump with how it was run myself, and I've been playing DayZ since, like I say, since it was released on beta on bloody PC years ago. So, I've coded games like Rome, like the history Rome and all of that sort of thing when I was a kid. I had a fair idea of how to code, a bit of Jason and things like that. But a lot of it that kept me going was people like Don Sibley and Scout Speeder and that, some of their videos and that helped me get the basics of it again. And then I picked up from there. I mean, I spend every spare hour of every day pretty much coding or helping someone with something, or adding to the bots or making a new feature. So yeah, I think as much as a community thing as well, the toxic side of it is pretty much what got me going as well. So without the toxic side of the community, I wouldn't bother picking it up and carrying it on myself either.
I'm trying to make your own. So it's funny that you mentioned the god of DayZ coding from the very start. I think myself, I learned a lot of stuff off Don Sibley's videos and Scale Speeder's videos. When it comes to DeadlandZ Factions, who does all the mods and coding for that?
I do the coding and stuff.
So, what made you start and kick it off?
Well, originally it was just because I had gotten Livonia. Me and my friends wanted to play Livonia, and we were looking for a faction server. And I got banned from about 4 or 5 because I always called the admins out on their abuse, and they didn't like that. So it was like, okay, let's just make our own. So I kind of was forced to learn it. But same with TBag, and that I always was interested in that stuff when I was younger. So I had a little bit of prior knowledge on how things kind of worked. And then I started DeadlandZ with my cousin originally. Actually, there was a server before DeadlandZ called, I think it was called Wu-Tang Factions, and then 2 players, Killer and another guy joined, and we became kind of a trio of owners, and then we eventually started DeadlandZ, and then that was my sophomore year of high school, and we did that, and I got thrown into coding, and it's always just been kind of a neat challenge to kind of overcome. If you want to find something that you want to fix, there's always a way to do it, and if you want to find a way to make something better, there's usually a way to do it. Nitrado makes it a little hard, but I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother bag of worms.
Oh no, we'll definitely open up that bag of worms one day.
Excellent.
Yeah, because I definitely think that needs to be addressed. What about you, Vaiden? Obviously, you do all your coding. What
I do.
What made you
I
start?
got into coding. What made me start with the DayZ is again, we got the private server. We're probably the longest running community Xbox server. We got it the second we can get them. And immediately I started going through the files and trying to, it all started with just trying to, hey, what this item is in the files, in the, XML files. Why is it not in the game? And figuring out, trying to how to put it in the game before the videos were around by Don Sibley and Scale Speed and all these guys.
Payday masks. I always tried to get those in.
Yeah, exactly. And then you put it in the game, like, oh, this crashes, this doesn't work, So it's a little bit of trial and error in the beginning, but it just kind of grew from there, It gets addicting after a while, to where I find myself putting more time into coding, more time into building the server than actually being on an appearance in it, which is kind of unfortunate a little bit, but as long as I know there's other people loving it, and loving the visuals and loving the immersion, that's what's important to me. And like I said, I try to do all my coding and building natural feeling and natural looking, and this is back before the DayZ editor as well, when you're kind of blind, you had to rip the server like, oh, no, I need to turn it 45 more degrees this way, so you have to go back and redo the code and restart the server and go back and make sure it looks good. But Don Sibley and the Don Sibley and Scale Speed are those guys. They're definitely a good way to learn. I've definitely learned from a lot of that stuff, and I've learned a lot from just trial and error. And one thing about coding, anybody that's thinking about coding their servers, I recommend two things. Get yourself a 10-slot test server, do all your coding on that, and not your main server that everybody plays on. And also run all your files through a XML JSON validators. There's a lot of times, you'll miss a semicolon or a period somewhere, and nothing works. It's crazy. That way you don't have to, Scale Speeder says it a lot. I'd recommend picking this up. Always have a backup. It'd save me more times than not.
Man, I got about 30 backup folders.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My desktop on my PC is literally 1.14, 1.15, 1.16.
Yep,
all the vanilla
same.
files. Those files.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. And you got to, man, because it only takes one time, and then you if you don't do it now, you'll screw yourself one time, and then I guarantee you'll from here on out. So
I think the top of some of my files still say like 115 or 116 because you don't have to change those. I think I've just left them because I've just been using the same files for like 4 or 5 years, or not 4 or 5 years. Sorry, that's how long I've been playing.
Yeah.
For like 2 years now. And,
yeah.
They're cluttered, but they work.
Right.
As long as
a lot of them do.
Yeah, as long as it works, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of them do. But coding is fun. It's cool and to create something, and with ASR, we don't share our files. We don't, and it's not that, we don't want anybody to have. We just want to be exclusive. We don't download any. I've seen some sweet builds even on the peasant site. I'm like, ooh, I wish I would have thought of that. That's what I think of. I don't take it, but I would say I wish I would have thought of that one. But so everything that's on our server, it's just built by us on our server, not shared, not taken from anything else. So we try to keep that exclusive. So on the build, so that's why we put so much time to it.
And
what's your Discord name? I wanna get up with you after this and check out some of your stuff.
Yeah, Vaiden Force.
You're in the green room chat with him, so you can always chat there and link up, connect. And,
oh yeah, cool. Yeah. I'll friend him real quick.
Mr. Q, how have you ever dabbled into the coding side of a server, and what's your thoughts on? If you haven't, on the outside look of
back when I very first started playing in this first server that I ever admined on. I owned it with one of the guys that I was in a faction with years ago, which enough what my game tag comes from. It's the After Death Club. Before that was the Anarchy Drug Cartel. We ended up getting kicked out of the server for being toxic. And he opened his own server and he's like, okay, look, you need to help me with some of the coding and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay, sweet. He's like, you have to do it for Nitrado. I was like, okay. My first 2 tries at it, I absolutely fucked the server. And I was like, brother, nah, way above my pay grade, alright? I'm a simple house painter. This is your job. But, my hat's off to a lot of the coders and you guys that make your servers, because it's not easy. You know, it does take a lot of time and dedication, and from a player's perspective, there's a lot of respect to you guys for that.
Get that.
Hard out.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. When I do my spotlights, there's some cases that I sit back and I just like I put 6 packets of seeds in one of TBag's mod ones. It took me an hour to get it positioned right. We're talking 6 packets of seeds in different positions, and they were just they weren't even sitting right. But by the end of it, I was like, fine, you could just sit there. So when I see these massive traders that are just, you know, all of Radio Zenit or PvP servers that are expanded out, my jaw just drops in how much time it takes to do it. And watching TBag, like I've seen it a few times when we're screen shared, and he's flicking it around and bending this stuff and moving it like it's nothing else. And here I was, I think I had like 10 extra packets of seeds buried underneath the mod somewhere because I couldn't find them. And I didn't know how to get them out. So I definitely get the respect and see the respect in the builds.
Yeah.
100%, the time and dedication.
And you're always trying to look for unique things to do as well that you haven't seen anywhere else, you know? Like one of the things that you've seen on our server is the tree canopy systems, you know, where you're going through the forest, but you don't know that there's people literally like Ewoks running from forest to forest that you just don't know. That's just something that we just come up with. I imagine it'll be more and more and more on other servers, but it's just something unique. You know, you try to think of unique things, like some of these trader areas that you're talking about. Now, that's not for us. That's not for our server. That's not what we're about. We like. But I look at that, I'm like, man, I just know as a coder, like, that's mad respect, man. That takes some stuff, and the way, you know, to move bears a certain way and things like that. It's pretty neat, pretty cool.
Some of the proxy side takes hours, but without the aid of editor now, it would take a lot longer.
Yeah,
I think it's one of my favourite things to see in a server is people putting bears in different positions, holding different things. I mean, I've got like so many fucking screenshots of cool looking bears.
Yeah.
God, I love Brian.
People abusing Brian the bear.
Starslick Raffy's ones are pretty cool.
Yeah,
I tell you what, if we have the ability in consoles to start doing boulders and rocks, you know, big boulders and rocks and, you know, land and things like that, look out. It would get crazy. You know, build a whole new land.
The rocks, I can see them coming. The rocks will definitely come because they are in the background code. It's just them giving us the actual ability to use them as an actual asset, basic.
I hope they do, because that would make a lot of things a lot easier.
At the moment, we're just stuck improvising stone wall and enlarging it.
Speaking on getting unique stuff onto the server, I spent one day about a few months ago, like a month before they added the bunker on Livonia. I spent all day one day building at the firing range on Livonia, if any of you are familiar. There's a big part of the map that just kind of has, it's a square, and it's just a flat area, flat square with a bunch of hills around it, and it makes a perfect square. And a lot of people build underground bunkers, but they have like lighthouse entrances where you have to clip through the map, and I didn't like that. I didn't think that felt very realistic. So what we did was we put a big plane of grass over and built like a military base on top of that plane of grass, and then used that, if you've used the DayZ editor, you're familiar probably, there's this tunnel asset for one, it's like Left Biathlon or something, like there's a tunnel asset you can put
Yeah.
We use that as the entrance and put a bunch of stuff underground, and it's actually underground, and it's kind of like a dark, dank area, but like flooded. There's like a flooded hangar with a helicopter in it. And then about a week later, they announced the actual underground bunker, and I was pissed.
Yeah.
They were watching you. That's the problem.
Yeah. Don't forget to take that heli spawn out of that spot too.
I did. That was one of the first things I did because
I built the same kind of bunker there, and I forgot to take the heli spawn out of here. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Oh my god!
Got a heli spawn rocket right in the middle of it.
I gotta see what we did similar.
All right, we'll load off. When it comes to learning how to start off with a DayZ server, a community server, what do you think the best way to actually learn it? Is it go through the videos, try and gain as much information, or do you just get it and try and read the files and go that way? I know a lot of you guys said that you had a look at the videos and you already had previous JSON experience. Did you guys just open the server and just crack into it, or are the videos on YouTube one of the more valuable assets when it comes to learning to start to code?
Videos are definitely important. And I think one thing that a lot of people take for granted is some people try to learn just specific things or how to edit certain things, but it goes a really long way if you learn how the files work, how they're talking to each other, and the structure of how it should be laid out. Because if you can learn what the variables mean and how they interact with other parameters and other variables in that same file, and what the different what's the different values mean in terms of like ones and zeros with the crafted and the on the map and on a person, stuff like that. If you learn like what they mean, where they're going, which files, like types. If you go to types and look at, there's like, this should be placed on construction sites, on shelves. If you go and look where those are actually pointing to, you can add your own stuff in and put your own spots on the map. So if you just break a file down to its most basic form and learn where things are going and talking to, that goes a long way, because then you can start doing stuff on your own, and you don't have to have videos.
You definitely will advance. I think most people start out with the XMM files, right? You start out there like, hey, I want to increase M4s, so I'm going to double this. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to, take the D loot and turn it to 0, so now it's not just on heli spawns. A lot of people probably start out in the XMM files, but the XMM files, it's just like he said, there's so many different other files that are intertwined with each other. And once you start learning those, then you start advancing on how and getting more familiar on how to code, and to where it all makes sense and things start to work a little bit more smoother, rather than just going in and changing some numbers around. It gets pretty advanced. It's fun.
It does, dude. It does.
Definitely got to have a good understanding of it.
Yeah.
Do you guys
learn what child means and all that stuff?
Yeah, make sure you got to spend a bit of time first making sure you actually learn the definitions of actually what things are doing. Yeah. Event definitions. Make sure you understand the loot economy.
Don Sibley helped me out on that. I really got help on that, and
I think TBag helped me out on all that. Right when DeadlandZ started and Greedy's server had about 50 people in it, every time I was stumped when I was learning out, I was like, hey, TBag, fix my shit. What happened? What's broken? And he would always hit me back with like a day later, sorry mate, was busy, here you go, here's what was broken. I was like, cool, man. And I think I can attribute a lot of what I learned to TBag, just kind of pointing stuff out to me and giving me pointers. So TBag's a legend for that. Definitely. DeadlandZ would not be what it is without TBag.
Yeah, the reason he was busy because he was helping me with my server.
Probably, bro.
But I definitely agree. I myself, when I do a lot of spotlights, I'll be looking at people's custom builds and I'll recognise the actual files. I'll recognise loot positioning in different spots. And like almost, I suppose, see the matrix of a custom DayZ server. You can sort of see, you know, okay, this person used this particular piece in their build, or this person has changed their tiers on their military. And it's funny how over time you start to see that.
As a coder, you can see what they've used.
Yeah, see the matrix
You
in
sort
it.
of tell what sort of category or
Yeah.
tag they've set to a building from when you walk into it, just from like what's placed about on the floor.
Yeah.
Being a player for hundreds of hours helps, because you'll walk into it. You're building a town or something, and you're like, I want it to be kind of military, kind of industrial. And if you've played the game for forever on Cherno or Livonia, you know which houses have a small shelf in the back that spawns hammers, so that's industrial loot. Or you know what house has a bed which spawns guns and clothes. And it makes it a lot easier to build when you're familiar with a house's like mesh and kind of where everything's placed in it.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I believe there are a few oddities. Like there's a house that's, I think it's a back of below the town, which always seems to spawn hunting gear at high level. How do you guys worry about those oddities, or do you try and hunt them down? And say if you only got military or hunting gear in a certain hunting cabins, do you try and hunt down those little spots, or are you more focused on the overall codes? So
I embrace it. I add my own oddities.
You like the oddities?
People are like in a, yeah, because if it's something cool like that, people will know it from vanilla and they respect that it's still there. Or if we're building a whole new military base, like in that bunker I mentioned, at the very top in like this little pit we have a Santa sleigh, and it spawns like I think food pretty often. So it's like if people get used to it and they learn the new zones like they would a regular town. Like people know about that house in Balata, people know about that sleigh on that military base. It's like people learn it, and it creates more of a center for people to huddle around and even fight other players or meet other players, which is kind of interesting. So the oddity's definitely been a uniqueness to a server I think is important to embrace.
Yeah, I agree.
You've got to have it to be
Uniqueness is
unique,
the
I
key.
think. Something odd.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things that I really loved about Voltai's Oasis and Screw, and how his loot economy was, everything was exactly custom. So you would only find building gear in places when life you'd find building gear, like so on scaffolding or in actual construction buildings, you know. All his car parts would only spawn inside garages or the little mechanic sheds, you know. And like everything was specific to where it actually should be. It was actually quite unique and good.
yeah, 100%. Actually, I do like the oddities that I find. I was on TGB, the Forgotten Realms, yesterday, and he had the portaloos. And you open up the portaloo, and it was just gear central. There was guns strapped on the walls. The sink was full of bandages. And the amount of times that I've ran past a portaloo and not even thought about it will now change my game, because it will just be, there's a portaloo, and I'll go back to that little flash and go back to actually checking out to see if someone coded in. But it's one of those three little portaloos that was right next to below the tents, just on the ocean side. And I already ran past it twice, and he just mentioned it to me, and I went back, and there's a full kit in there, the whole lot, and I thought that was quite a good little oddity, that even it had been so long in the server, it had never been mentioned, and only people had found it knew about it.
When you say Waterloo, are you talking about, is that outhouse?
Yeah, outhouse,
Yeah,
portaloo,
The
porta
outhouse
potty.
is the outhouse is on ours. We keep it real, man. We actually put the actual vomit in the actual poop in the freaking outhouses, man, on ours.
No.
Yeah.
Someone left a surprise?
And oh yeah. So when you open it up, you're not gonna find any guns in there, man. probably running out of there. So, yeah. I mean, that's where it's supposed to be.
Oh, that's hilarious. But that's, once again, that's the oddities that could be the flavour of the server that, you know, I always said
Right.
there should be a gun in the toilet. There should be, you know, an IJ-70
Yeah.
stuffed in it, the occasional toilet with a clip in it.
Yeah.
I think that would be quite a little...
Yeah, we have an underground bunker in a pretty strategic area on our server in south of the river, which is the fighting zones, and it's kind of wide open. But you know, you get in that bunker, there's always going to be a full ghillie and a full NBC gear suit in there as well. You know, so there's some carrots in front of you. You know, but to get down in there, you know, you got to go through a lot to get down in there, and then you're wide open. So this is like he was saying earlier, is like, you know, you have all these things, like, you know, there's always food on top of that sleigh he's talking about. So people are a creature of habit. They're going to start going certain ways when they need certain things, and that just encourages interactions on the server. I knew exactly what he meant when he was saying that.
Yeah, we have like, I think there's some random town, I think it's, and somewhere central Livonia, there's like a crater in a town. And I think I put a Pepsi machine in there, and it always has a Pepsi can in the little slot. I don't know where it is, but I did it, but I forgot where it was.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you
I
remember
have,
those little
something
oddities
hidden,
I
on our
sometimes
server.
I
You all
forget
know
them.
where the on Livonia, where the the little miniature Stonehenge is.
No.
Not too many people know about that. There's a little miniature Stonehenge, and I got a little Christmas egg in there, or Easter egg in there for somebody to find, and nobody's said anything about it. But yeah, there's a little
I do the
miniature
same thing.
area at the Stonehenge. in
There's
Livonia.
a lot hidden in
funny.
Livonia.
I leave teddy
Not
bears
a lot
around
of
the
people
map.
do know
Pink
that.
teddy bears. Wait for people to send me
Yeah.
pictures of them.
There's a miniature tree with a fence around it, hidden in the woods in Livonia as well. I sent Grady a picture of it a few weeks back.
Yeah, I was trying to find it. I got no idea, but literally it's between the edge of the tree and the stump in the middle, and it's a full little fence around it with one tree in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's on the official map, I believe.
Yeah, so official.
All right. Well, speaking about the map, do you guys have a favourite part of the map? Speaking from experience,
Great Mountain.
we are currently in Greedy's favourite part of the map. Devil's Castle up on the hill. This particular area is one of the favourite parts that I like. And Q, you like Green Mountain? You're a fan of Green Mountain?
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's just nostalgia. It was the first place I ever built a base, and for me, it's home. Yeah, it's close to everything, sort of almost middle of the map. I just love it.
Do you think they should give access to the higher sections of Green Mountain? Like,
The tower?
yeah,
Nah.
higher up in the tower?
If you go higher up,
Nah.
yeah, but it would be nice, but no, we're stuck with what we're stuck with.
Yeah, I'd like
Pretty
to.
high as it is.
I'd like to just get right
not
up onto
bad.
the
Just
peak.
throw some wires up there. Everybody's got the cojones to walk the wires to the top
Okay.
part. You know.
PA system
go.
would be cool,
Yeah, PA system would be cool.
but it's out in the open.
Yeah. But even, I just, every time I see that Green Mountain, I think I just want to hook around that light rail and just get on top and see how high it goes. I just think that's just a waste opportunity sometimes. What about you, Vaiden? You got a special part of the map that you...
I'm a Livonia guy. I just love the rain and the lushness and the rivers and the lakes. But anything south of the river I like. There's some areas maybe a little bit more, but I love deep woods and the overgrown houses and the ruins and things like that. That's really appealing to me. I love stuff like that. Feels really natural. So I'm more of a rural guy. I remember before I came when I was last 6 months I played on official. I was always a west guy on Chernarus. You know, I would just head west, just get as far as I can west, and just live, hunt, and build little campfires and things like that. And if you ran into anybody, you know they were geared. Uh, just I just love staying out of the cities. I love being in the woods, on the maps. Livonia is definitely is nice with that.
Yeah, I agree with being out in the bush sides of it, and since the update of Livonia, I find that the appeal of Livonia and the life has definitely been brought right into it. What about the guys?
Yeah, I like what they did.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. What about you, Slimbuckle? What's your favourite part of the map?
I'm not so much a PvPer, I'm a looter-gatherer, I suppose you call it. I usually hang out between Nebuley and Tarnow, just for the heli crashes and the bunkers. Yeah, they're easier to gather loot with more military zone, doubly.
Yeah, 100%. And that strip's definitely a hot little piece of turf in the DeadlandZ Factions area.
Yeah, it is.
And what about you, Dead Paradise? Got a favourite part of the map?
Probably anywhere down south, just because if you hit a military base up, you just don't know who's going to be around.
Yeah, 100%. So it's all about being in that less populated places.
Right, because, yeah, I mean, you could be saluting in a random military base and stumble across 4 or 5 dudes.
And we've done so with that plenty of times.
Especially with 100 pop coming up.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting on the map. What about you, Ned? Do you any particular spots that you go to enjoy the scenery?
On Chernarus, there's three barracks, a big warehouse, and a piano house to the right of Navoya, up north. That's like my favorite spot on the whole map. I usually stay on Navoya and that northwest airfield between those two. I love that little area. It's just fun to PvP and run around. It's pretty open, and the only people up there are people that know what they're doing, so it's good fighting. As far as Livonia, I probably say Polana just because of the hills. It's kind of a neat dynamic to fight in because there's a gas station down low, and there's those hills up, the houses up on the hills, and then there's that area across the street with all the cut down trees that you can sit up and snipe. It's I think it's a pretty neat town. But Livonia, I'm not really familiar with the map because I never got a chance to play it besides as a server owner, so that kind of I haven't familiarized myself with too much of the area besides just the big towns.
Just the big towns where the main action happens. It's funny how limited time doesn't allow you to really get out and explore the different areas and maps, and you sort of sit to a main area to fill your time in. I guess that's just one of the things we do as we adult in game at the same time. Mr. T-Bag.
I mean, it was easier when I was...
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
No, you're good. I definitely had time to learn it, and I everything I know about Livonia, I learned in like the first few months of playing it, because as you said, adulting takes up a lot of time. And when I started DeadlandZ, I was like I just turned 17, and I had a lot of free time, so I was playing Livonia. But as that free time went away, I didn't learn as much.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? Good old adulting getting in the way of our precious game
17.
time. Yeah, kicking off a service.
17, I was playing Pac-Man and Asteroids.
That's it. I was playing Double Dragon on
I am
Commodore
too.
64.
There you go.
That's
Love it.
But it's definitely funny you say that with the different age categories with server owners, everything from being young fellas, being right up to the older generation, and you can tell the ones that last is where it doesn't matter on the age difference. It's about the maturity level, I guess, and being able to handle the situations.
Sure.
And I suppose filtering between real life and server life.
Yep.
And Mr. Teabag, I know you delve into a few different maps, being a PC coder as well. What's your
Yes.
favourite spot of the map? On any map?
Console, it's Cherno for me. On console.
Yep.
That's, it'd have to be down at Miskino, and that's more for... Because that was the old go-to back in the day before Northwest Airfield and that. It was Miskino Tent City, so I still out of habit. Always head up that side of the map and go for a little loop run through there first. It's always quiet. No one really goes over that way no more. It's, I'd say, probably a quarter of the size it used to be back in the old Cherno map.
Same with Pilata. There used to be actual ATC and a ton of buildings there on console. They kind of nerfed it.
Yeah, when they brought in Northwest Airfield and some of the bigger military bases, they reduced some of the old smaller go-to zones, I'd like to say.
And even Northeast
Yeah,
Airfield,
yeah.
which a lot of people don't even know exists, which is crazy. A lot of stuff there. That Northeast Airfield used to be really fun to explore on PC, but now there's nothing.
And is that part of where you...
Favourite match got to be DRL.
Yeah, do you take your coding and try and put that nostalgic feel back into those areas?
Definitely.
I know
It's
Teabag,
like a
you've got a
blank
Mosquito
canvas.
Tents military build coming out.
Yeah, it's pretty much one replica of the old one.
And is that part of the influence?
Yeah, pretty much identical replica to the old school version of it, how it used to look back in the day. I mean, a lot of the stuff, if I'm looking for some new ideas and that, I'll jump on PC. A lot of the good map guys, I do a lot of stuff, like we work alongside Cabello and Yammer anyway, so I get a bit of insight into what they're doing their side, but I like to jump on and explore some of the other maps, like Deer Isle and the Mouse. Deer Isle, it's got the post-apocalyptic feel to that map's just crazy. It's so in depth. Some of the bits of detail that the creators have put into that map. I mean, just walking around it, exploring, just to get some ideas of new things, and you spot something and think, that looks pretty cool, and you think a different adaptation to make it work for how you want it to, and it helps bring a new bit of life into it as well, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose having that PC influence also helps with, I guess, the ideas and bringing some of the stuff across to...
Yeah, like trying to bring in
console.
some of the new stuff, like having an exploration sort of feel to it, like where you've almost got a story, like Deer Isle and the Mouse, you have to collect the key cards and do certain things to get to Lantia or get into the crypt. I mean, to put some sort of element like that in, like we've got the bunkers and madness, we've got the Tizzy power plant, so you still got to progress that way to get up there, but to have more of a storyline and something like that would be a lot cooler, I think.
You know, I think when a server needs a little bit of a storyline, a little push for the players to at least follow a track, whether it be a faction server, a hardcore server, or even on a full map PvP, there still has to be some sort of a line that players have to follow to, I guess, get a story together for your server. All right. So we had a few questions about safe zones and how, I guess, you guys feel as server owners and players about safe zones. And I know when it comes to roleplay servers, Q, that you guys had a safe zone yourselves. What's your thoughts on safe zones, and are they a requirement in servers, and what styles?
I think it definitely depends on the server. from a roleplay point of view, maybe if for a trader, it has to be a safe zone a lot of the times because you will get people coming in to grief them, no matter what. But otherwise, I don't think they're essential. You know, again, it affects the flow of the game. It affects that natural feel to it. You know, you should be walking around places feeling like you're going to be in danger no matter what.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, with the, I agree with that too. It does depend on the server. With ASR, you know, we've got the safe zone. We've had it for 3 years. You know, the river is a perfect dividing point. I know a lot of servers are doing that now. North of the river safe, south of the river, you know, full on DayZ. But you know, when we do our builds and we do our things, and we try to do a little bit of RP as well. You know, we do a lot of the grand builds, a lot of the big stuff, a lot of the cool shit, you know, down south of the river to encourage people to get down there and get the good stuff and get the good loot. But then, you know, having the safe zone also has it to where people can, you know, you're appealing to every different type of player, whether it's a PvE player or a player that just started wants to learn, you know, kind of gives them a little bit of a leg up to learn without having to be KOS'd all the time. And then you stay north of the river. You can build a big ass base. You can do, you know, do all kinds of stuff. Free roam and free trade. Your enemy factions are saying hey to each other and giving each other the stink eye when they're walking by, but that's it. South of the river, everything is going on. So the safe zone is good for us, and we do also do a purge once a month on our server. So the whole entire map just kind of falls down to no rules. So you know, people can't hoard, people can't do all these things up north, and you know, hoard all the loot. So we do have a full no rules day as well for the entire server up in the north. So that helps balance it out as well.
Well, that's
But I like safe zones.
definitely that's definitely a good way to balance it. But I know when it comes with DeadlandZ Factions, and I believe the quote's still up there. When I first visited Deadlands, the trader or the safe zone was up at Capo prison, and I was blown away by their trader when it came to not only helping the player get geared, but he correlated it with the Discord, how to pay for stuff, helped him out, talked about the Discord, and I thought that was absolutely phenomenal how that safe zone worked, and that really opened the eyes for me for where safe zones were maybe essential for that style of game. Do you guys still roll your safe zone and trader? And how do you guys manage it these days?
Go ahead, Slim, you take this one.
We don't run our trader anymore. We scaled down our staff. Figured, listen to staff and seen, you know, what we were missing as staff within the game. I think one of the biggest things for me was actual gameplay. So when trader was around, my gameplay was trader. That was it. And not to say that wasn't awesome, it was great. I met a lot of the community and value, you know, the interactions I had with them. But I did miss playing. So we got rid of trader so that staff could go out and build a base. We still can't raid. There's still rules around being staff within our server. Make it fair. The admin abuse tagged down. But yeah, trader was awesome. Safe zones are hard to manage. Even being safe zones, you still have people come in and kill and grieve and things like that. And again, another thing, watch on Discord and waste our time doing, you know, working for a server definitely cuts your gameplay.
100% owning and working definitely cuts it.
Especially, I think owning as being admin on servers, if you've got a safe zone, a lot of your time turns into dealing with problems that happen around the safe zone. It does become quite a headache. Definitely.
It does. It does. It's hard to maintain. It's hard to manage, especially if you're not whitelisted. But you know, it's just something that, you know, on our server, we've managed it pretty well, especially using the river as a natural divider, and all of your spawn points, fresh spawn points, will always be north of the river, of different areas. And we have those messages that pop up right away in the lower left corner. Of course, I know a lot of people don't pay attention to them, but for the most part, we don't have a lot of north killings outside the purges. So it's kind of works out.
That's
so.
good testament to your community as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I
And
think it comes
the
down
other
to community.
testament to it, too, that's super important, is when we do have those incidences of that, the admins are they have to be, and I always stress this with our admins and moderators, is that we have to be super quick to address those situations, and so when those happen, of like, hey, I just got killed in the north by somebody, I don't, within minutes, no matter what time of day or day of the week it is, somebody, is looking into that, and that's in fact what happened. That person's immediately banned or put on a suspension. So, the admins are super quick, and if you're not, and if you don't follow up with everything all the time, 100% of the time, then you're going to start having problems all the time. So we're pretty quick on addressing those issues, on safe zone violations.
Yep, you definitely got to be attentive. And TBag, what about you with safe zones? I know you've got a variety of different servers that cater for everything from deathmatch to hardcore. How do you deal with safe zones and implement them in your servers?
I definitely agree with these guys. It's just another thing to manage, and it does get time consuming managing safe zones. I do stick to them around traders, but I'm not a lover of them outside the trader zone. Same for the hoarding side of it, and it's not just that. Every time you add another rule, it's another rule to counter that rule, and then another one for that one, and it spirals. People turn into solicitors when you start putting rules in, and then they start finding loopholes and workarounds, and yeah, it does become a headache. Just
Amen.
Without managing it itself, just trying to combat the comebacks to every rule is hard enough.
When we started our server, just like T-Bag said, he's absolutely right on that. When we started our server, it was like, hey, I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it like, I don't want to join a server where I got to read a book and I have all these different rules. So we started with one little page, 8 rules or whatever, and then just like he says, people just find this loophole, they find this or they find that. So now you're growing this. Now you got, okay, now I guess I have to put this in there. Okay, now I guess I got to add this. And next thing you know, you're what you've become, what you didn't want in the first place. But that's just because the nature of the player, man. People are always going to try to find something. Well, it doesn't say in the rules that I can't do this. It doesn't say I can't. I'm like, okay, well now it does. All right,
Yeah, that's exactly it.
He's exactly right. Yeah.
Yep, definitely agree on the loopholes and the wording. You got to be an absolute expert in grammar, the English language, to be able to make sure that you cover all your bases. 100% agree with that. All right, so where are we? So I know a lot of you guys are owners and coders yourselves, but when you jump on the game to actually get involved in the game, what do you do? What's your mission?
Kill anything I see.
So you go hunting PvP?
It depends on what stage I'm at the game, I mean, if I get on and at first I want to gear up fairly well, the best I can, so I'll do a lot of grinding. And once I feel pretty comfortable with where I'm at, I do a lot of hunting. I do a lot of tracking. If I've been on this kick now, listening to wolves, and I can just tell when they're aggroed on somebody else, not me. And that's fun, the way to do it too. I just do a lot of hunting, like you said, kill anything. That's just the fun part of me. It's just the hunt, the big thing.
I love the PvP, but I do enjoy the survival aspects of the game. I think we all play it for a bit of the survival aspect as well, because the realism of it as well, when it's post-apocalyptic survival, that's what we're not all just about killing each other.
Yeah.
That's funny how you.
I don't mind dying in DayZ. I don't think anybody minds dying in DayZ, but problem I have dying in DayZ is when it's not my fault. When that car does a tornado in the air, or I'm glitched in a wall and I'm killed by a Zed, or when it's a game glitch and I die, I get pretty upset about it.
No, you mean those special game features?
Yeah, game
Nicholas?
features.
Yeah, those are the features you're talking about. Yes, yes, those are the features.
Where it decides that your
So
arms are
frustrating.
sore and you can't pick them up, and the zombie can just freely hit you without your your ADS coming up at all.
Yeah, or you sneaking up behind a Zed and you decide to do some ice skating instead of stealth kill on him, and then you ice skate into a corner, and next thing you know, you're dead.
You're dead.
Yeah, good times.
What about the admin crew of DeadlandZ? Do you guys get in together and roll, or what's your mission for when you actually jump on the server and play?
Mine's definitely dependent on what happened in Discord prior 24 hours. If Discord's been pretty good, I usually just, I don't know, loot around, but people are complaining about things, then it becomes more of a mission than a gameplay, and so I'm out, checking whether I can find that item that they said isn't spawning, or whether someone built their base wrong, or again doing more admin and less gameplay.
Yeah, doing the investigative footwork. That's very interesting. What about you, Dead Paradise and Nebs? I know, Nebs, you probably got less time now than you did do.
Yeah, I'll let Dead speak first on that.
There you go.
Currently it's PvP and then little base building here and there, since we didn't really get to do base building at the trader, so kind of just refreshing on that.
Yeah, nice. Touching base on the things that you haven't been able to get involved with due to being an admin and stuff.
Same thing goes for me with what Slim said. I'm constantly, anytime I find loot, when I do play, I'm trying to get into it more now that I have more time off. Starting literally, this is my first 2 days off I've had in a row in a long time.
I appreciate
you. Permanent. I'm gonna have a lot more time, and I think one of the things I constantly look for when I play is just the loot. Because what's not spawning that should be, what item am I finding way too much of? What item am I noticing that's just not appearing where it should? Besides that, which is just happens in normal gameplay, you don't really have to go out of your way to do that. My favorite thing to do, because I often get on in short bursts of an hour or two, is poke anthills. I love going to giant bases and throwing a flashbang over the wall and waiting to see everyone spray out all the gates, and I just try to fight as long as I can. And usually I'll pick off a few people before someone eventually gets a crack shot.
I like the terminology, kicking anthills.
It's so fun, man. I love it. Because then all the faction comes in chat. It's like, Neb, you moron, what are you doing? Stop using log to find us. Shut up. I hate you. It's like, okay, relax. It's not. It's not that toxic.
You've got a giant base in the middle of Cherno. We wonder how we found you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I wonder how you found me. And they're joking about it. It's a fun community. It's always GG's, good shot, nice kill. They hate you. That was a bit extreme. It's a fun community.
But I know what you mean. It's in jest. They know you're coming for a stir. I mean, I've been involved in the community for a while, and DeadlandZ Factions, as big as they are, and as much rivalry as some of the factions have, it's pretty chill. When it comes down to it, it's pretty chill. Mr. Q, since you've started your faction rolling off again, what's been your mission in game of late?
Of late, fucking trying to find base building supplies. And just same as usual, just the adventure of the game, I think. We're just constantly rolling, going to see different parts of the map all the time. More than anything, the adventure.
Yeah,
I mean, that'll never change
around
for me. Yeah. There's always something new to see, especially when you're playing servers like Zagoria, where it's almost like playing a completely different map. You roll into one area and it's like, holy shit, It's not supposed to be here. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
100%. I like getting
It's-
lost in places that I should know, or not recognising the place
Yeah.
because it's been modded, and I got no idea where I am.
The best.
Well, that's it. You know, I play with someone that, you know, we play for about as long as I do, and he has no fucking idea on how to move around the map. Yeah, but I've been playing so long now that I know the map like the back of my hand. But playing Zagoria, it's like that. All of a sudden, I'm walking around. I'm like, where the fuck am I?
Get completely
It's
lost.
kind of nice to feel like he does and feel lost again.
Yeah, as a player, I 100% agree with that. And that sort of, I get impressed when you can make me lost, especially in Cherno. If I spawn in and I got no idea where I am for the first 10 minutes, you definitely get a big, an extra pitchfork to your name. Let's just say it like that. All right. Well, that's the run through of our panel and our questions. Is there any questions that are in chat that anyone would like to bring up to our panel? We do appreciate you guys spending the last 2 hours chatting about the game. It's definitely a massive insight.
I have a question for Greedy.
Yeah, fire away.
Why didn't you stand in the tower and look down on us this whole time, man?
Oh,
It was right there.
You know what? This is why I positioned it. But to be honest, being above you is not what I want it to be about. It's a more of a friendly discussion. Sit down with people and be more of a relaxed situation rather than commanding the overseers as the peasant king I am.
Well, that's just it. We are mortals. You got to get up high to get a better view.
Yeah, 100%. But no, that's the reason why I stay down. Opinion on tryhard PvPers and mouse and keyboard and scripting cheating. I don't know if we have much in
If
the.
you use a Cronus Zen, you're scumbag, and you're terrible at the game.
Well, what's that?
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Can-
If you use a Cronus,
Can we
then you
inform
are
a
at
peasant?
the bottom of the skill pool.
What is a
A
Cronus?
Crota said, so it takes away any recoil.
People use them,
They-
and there's no way to detect them, so we kind of just have to live with it. But if you use them, just know you're not very good. That's it.
Oh, there you
Live
go.
with that.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr.
On the,
Yeah, go.
I was going to say on the mouse, keyboard and mouse thing. I mean, our servers both have controller and keyboard and mouse. A lot of our top gamers are actually controller players. I'm keyboard stuck on controller, whereas it definitely isn't much of an advantage if you play properly.
No, I don't think there's much of a difference. People say when it comes to the inventory system, it's a little bit easier, just switching it over. But after playing for so long, I don't find I find it quite easy to zip around the inventory. I probably even find it harder
Both are just as
when you're
comfortable,
looting.
aren't
when you're looting keyboard and mouse. You can't just jump over into the inventory, smash the crap out of X until it stops pushing stuff into your inventory and do the runner. You got to slowly click and move it across. I think that was yeah, 100%. No, Epic, we're not going to hear TBag say daddy.
Hunter boots or jungle boots?
they? Where the fuck did
Yeah,
you write that?
that's Epic. Epic with just under there, hunter boots or jungle boots for woodland travels. Anyone got any thoughts?
Jungle boots
Yeah.
all day because they look nicer.
Jungle boots because they look nicer.
It's all about that drip, Greedy. It's all about that drip, man.
It's all about the drip.
I like the hunter boots. To be honest with you, I find that it seems like they last a little longer for me in the woods. I think they're fairly equal though.
To be honest, I'm not a boot person. I will wear sneakers till the cows come home. I just prefer it being more quieter and not have to swap or worry.
If we would have jandals, because I'm sure being Australian, you wear those things constantly.
Nah, fuck them. I'll go barefoot. Jandals. Alright, any more questions that we have in the chat? No, any questions that you guys would like to ask me, apart from why aren't you in a dominant power? No, sweet as. Well, ladies and
Dog came
gentlemen.
up to you and said, "Woof, would you do it?"
Woof. What did that say? Punchface loves the wellies. Alright, well, I'd like to thank our guests as things start to go a little haywire here, as it does. That's ADKCUE, the guys from DeadlandZ Factions, Vaiden Force, from ASR, and of course TBag. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Peasant Podcast. I'd like to thank you all for joining us as our guests go absolute crazy. If you want to come in and jump in to have a little talk and chat privately with these guys, you guys are more than welcome to. The server's TPP, the Peasant Podcast. The guests will hang around for as long as they can. The password is VIP TSS if you want to log in. There's no weapons and stuff, but you're more than welcome to come and chat with the guys. A big shout out to our guests for coming along, and of course everybody for joining in on chat. That was our first podcast.
I'm still alive. You can't.
It was a little shaky at the start, but I think after a few episodes we'll get into it.
Dead.
As I said, you guys are more than welcome to come and join in what's going on. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. And we'll be back next week. We've got the ladies podcast next week. So we've got all the ladies of DayZ coming in. We've got... We've got Smiley's got a gun. We've got Lacey Saurus streamer. We've got GDS Queen. We've got the ladies from Forlorn, and we've got the ladies from Darker Than Blood. It's going to be absolutely wicked. As I said, you're more than welcome to jump in the server right now. TPP The Peasent Podcast, capital VIP, and then PASS in lowercase. You're spawning at the cars up the top. You're more than welcome to come talk to the guys offline, see what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an absolute wicked podcast to start off with. We will be posting it on YouTube if you want to get across and follow the YouTube. I'll be absolutely ecstatic. I'm trying to get 1K on there. What an absolutely wicked show. We will we'll definitely have a few of the guests. If you've got some suggestions on who you would like on the show, definitely come out and drop it in the Discord. Apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for joining us for the Peasant Podcast. And if you want to get involved, you're more than welcome to jump on the Discord and put your name down in the casting couch. But from the Greedy Peasant and the guys on the panel, we'd like to thank you for joining us for our very first podcast. It was absolutely wicked.